Hi, everybody. My name is Maddy, and I am the product manager. Can you hear me if I stand here, or should I stand here? Off? We're good? We're good. Okay. Hi, everybody. I will restart then. My name is Maddy, and I'm the product manager fellow, and I've had the privilege of working with Public Services and Procurement Canada over the last 10 months. In Canada, there are 270,000 federal public servants, and on any given day, 5,000 of them are traveling for work. Each one of those travelers had to do research for, get their trip approved, and book before they even stepped foot on a plane or a train.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay? Better? We're closer. Now we're good. Hi, folks. I'm Ali, and I'm a federal public servant who had to travel to be here today. And I want to walk you through that process a little bit. So did you know that, there's a maximum rate that public servants are allowed to spend on hotels when they travel? I had to go look that up, and in Toronto, that's $190 a night, which makes it hard to find a hotel in downtown. It took a bit of digging to find one here. And the next thing I had to do was book my train by going on our website, and it took about 45 minutes because it's unintuitive and crashes frequently. When you book travel for yourself, you go to via site or app, buy your ticket, travel. Not so much for the government. I have to go to a special government travel portal, pick my tickets, my manager then gets an email to approve it, and then the system tries to go to via site and buy the tickets. A few things can go wrong here. There's a few points of failure.
This picture is from the day that Ali had made that request. He'd run over to his manager, Emily's cubicle, and she had approved it, and they were waiting to see if the booking cleared. It actually didn't due to system issues, and Ali had to go all the way back and start his booking again.
So these are just some of the issues that I faced. We currently have a complicated travel process, and as federal public servants, we just live with it. But a better travel solution could make our job so much more effective and efficient. After all, we're not traveling for fun.
You're not having fun today, Ali?
Okay, the showcase is fun, so I'm happy I'm here.
Think about the last time that you had to wait 20 minutes for service, either on the phone or in line at a service counter. It's pretty frustrating, right? Did you feel like your time wasn't being valued, or there was something more important you could be doing? We do that to our federal public servants every time we ask them to travel for work, because we're not only asking them to take time away from their home and their office, we're asking them to spend even more time preparing for that trip.
So if we could save 20 minutes per public servant for the 5,000 that travel every day, that's 1,600 hours that we're saving. Hours that could be spent on important work, like inspecting cargo ships that enter Canadian waters to keep our oceans clean and safe.
Or work like traveling to conferences, to upskill and collaborate with international researchers to further Canada's scientific research and development.
Or work like providing security for our court systems to keep the wheels of justice running smoothly.
These are just a few of the examples of why federal public servants travel for work. And it's also an illustration of how each one of these travelers might need something totally different from a travel solution.
So to make sure that these needs were better understood, NextGen Travel was created in December 2017 to reimagine the future of government travel. We did a cross-country tour and talked to over 700 public servants about their travel experiences. And while we were doing the tour, one of the things we learned is that public servants were having a lot of difficulty applying and understanding travel policies and guidelines, which makes sense because there's over a dozen of them that dictate how the government travels. We also heard people talking about bad user experiences and the lack of digital tools like mobile apps. So we brought in the fellows to help us dig in, talk to more users, and test our assumptions.
One of the first things that Andrea, Mike, and I did when we got on the ground with our government partners was to have in-depth one-on-one conversations with federal public servants. We talked with the newer federal public servant who had traveled for the first time recently. He was totally lost. The only way he managed to get his trip booked was because he had an experienced admin to help who has been doing this for the past 10 years. If she wasn't around, he wouldn't have even known where to start.
But not everyone has an admin with that level of travel experience. So along with the fellows, we asked, how might we help first-time travelers know what to do?
Within the span of a couple of weeks, Andrea had designed and Mike had built an online guidebook that lays out all the information that public servants need exactly when they need it, in preparation for travel, while they're traveling, and when they get back. It's a simple step-by-step guide, and each step is described in plain language. Policies and directives are referenced, but they're not the focus. The focus is on how to get through that travel process. This high-level walkthrough just simply doesn't exist in this format today. What does exist is small pockets of content that those experienced team admins have created themselves based on their lived experiences over time. So now, instead of feeling their way through the process, coming to a blocker and having to resolve it at the last minute, federal public servants and travelers can reference this guide, know where to start, and be better prepared. And when we showed this concept to people, they were really excited. Now they know what was expected of them at a high level.
Right. So it helps public servants become aware that they even have a budget for their trip, but they still have to go to a different website to see how much they can spend on hotels, like I did, and then to another website to find out how much they can spend on meals. So were we really saving them that much time?
So one day, I asked Mike, the software developer fellow on our team, whether we could make that information more accessible. He said, heck yeah, let's build an API. So for those of us who maybe don't know what that is, and so we don't get too far into the weeds, what does that actually mean for us? So now instead of someone having to go to this website, scroll down, find the city they're going to, copy the information onto a budget form, that information could be combined with other allowances and served up to them, saving them that manual work. Et voila. We built an estimator and a calculator that uses those APIs and lets travelers input what they know and fills in the gaps on the things that they shouldn't have to remember based on where they're going to and the dates of their trip. All of the costs that travelers have to account for, like accommodations, transportation, transit and cabs, and meals, are listed, which minimizes the chance that travelers actually forget to include something in that estimate, because I've heard of cases where people forget to include a hotel.
Or meals.
The maximum travelers can spend on a hotel and their meal allowances are there, which minimizes the chance of doing that manual lookup and research. Although we suggest limits, they can be changed in exceptional circumstances. Imagine if you're traveling to Toronto for work during the Raptors finals. That $190 a night that Ali talked about may not be enough for a hotel. Ultimately, we didn't want to build a rigid system that wouldn't allow for changes because the real world is complicated.
That's right. So this allows travelers to build estimates without being a policy or allowance expert, which is nice.
And when we showed this concept to travelers, they were really excited. We would introduce it by starting to queue it up and ask how long it took them to put together their estimate currently, and they would actually start to anticipate what we were about to show them. One participant even called it majestic and said she was totally obsessed with it. People were easily and quickly able to see how this would save them time and help her do her job better.
Yeah, we got some really good feedback on this concept because it showed public servants what travel could be. And as the team started to tease apart these little tools, a standalone guidebook, a standalone estimator, it started to make us question the value of the single big system that we have today.
What if that big monolithic travel system that people use to book their travel today were to just disappear? Could we replace that and use the tools of digital to empower public servants? What if people could go out and book on their own, like they do for travel in their personal lives, and they didn't have to cross their fingers and run over to their manager's desk and beg them to approve it on time?
So this is a really big what if and a departure from how government travel is done today.
Which made this a ripe candidate for an experiment because we didn't want to rush forward without knowing if it could even work.
So instead of rolling out a new system to thousands of users at once, we're talking to just 5 people. The fellows are working with one government department to actually try out this new approval system for booking.
So we asked travelers to book on their own, not using that special government portal that Ali described. To support them, we built a standalone webpage. It's a quick reference filled with the bare bones of information that people need to book on their own. It's short. It's only 4 sections: accommodation, transportation, paying for travel, and what to do in case of emergencies. Similar to that guidebook we showed you before, it references policies and directives, but they're not the focus. We include things like the Via Rail discount for rail travel, fare class guidelines for air travel, and we reference the city rate limits, but other than that, we actually just ask people to book using the vendor of their choice. And while folks now had the information that they needed to travel, they continued to use the old government booking system. While we were able to support them in the best case scenario, what was missing was what they needed to do in the worst case scenario.
Like, what are you supposed to do if you're stuck in a Chicago airport in the middle of the night due to a snowstorm? Who's doing your approvals? Who's buying your tickets? So what's happening there, right? So as tempting as it can be to just replace one tool or system with another, an improved user experience means that we have to consider more than just the technology.
That's right, because this is a service. It's not just that special government portal. It's about how you pay for things, how you make changes, and who you contact in case of emergency. People want flexibility, but they deserve access to support when they do need it.
So the good thing is this was a pilot. We didn't need to go out and talk to 1,000 people. We learned from just 5. The questions and concerns that they raised, like their flights and approvals, can help us shape the program before we even decide to roll with it. And the federal public servant is moving towards this model, letting public servants give feedback on systems before we decide whether or not we want to use them.
And our work will live on even as the fellowship wraps up. Do you remember when I told you about Mike's APIs? There's an internal development team who's taking over that work and continuing to develop APIs for future products and services.
So in addition to making more user-friendly services for travelers, you've made inroads in delivering more computer-friendly services for our computers.
You got it. They are opening up access to more data and allowing future software and tools to access that data as well.
So I've had the pleasure of working with the fellows for the last year to see how they solve problems, and not just in making travel less time-intensive, but also in how to test quickly, test our assumptions, and iterate better solutions.
Over the past 10 months, we have not been able to solve all of the problems that travelers face when they do travel for government business. But that's okay, because more importantly, we've been establishing a foundation for how to build and deliver better services. By working with public servants every step of the way, we're confident that they'll be able to adapt and thrive with what's coming next.
Because while government travel is important to us as a team, it shouldn't be something that every public servant needs to master. We want to get it out of their way so they can focus their time and energy on what's really important: serving Canadians.
Thank you very much, and a special thank you to our partners at NextGen Travel.